Tonight on Joynews Prime, Supreme Court dismisses request by lawyers for former President John Mahama to have the Electoral Commission chairperson answer 12 questions they believe are critical in the petition before the court.
We will not apply Order 22 of CR 47 of 2004 in these circumstances. We accordingly refuse to grant the application and same is accordingly dismissed.
The lawyers in the last few hours have put in another request for some documents from the EC, including the constituency presidential election results summary sheets. Nearly 100 persons have been arrested in the central business district of Accra for flouting the law on the wearing of face masks.
The Regional Police Command have embarked on a special operation this morning and have been able to arrest 97 persons who were not wearing the face mask.
President Akufo-Addo meanwhile says government has initiated arrangements with some pharmaceutical companies to ensure Ghana has some vaccines for the inoculation of the population against COVID-19.
The committee formed by government to recommend the appropriate decision on COVID-19 vaccines has completed its work, enabling government to begin discussions with vaccine manufacturing companies with the goal of ordering the suitable doses of the vaccines for use in Ghana.
The president's key advice on COVID-19 has meanwhile highlighted some challenges with Ghana's fight against the pandemic, including the increasing preference for solutions other than orthodox medicine. In business, if you are a business here in Ghana, a financial think tank is advising that you enter an agreement with your bank to buy dollars at a fixed rate, as it is projected Ghana cedi will appreciate against the dollar by the end of 2021. Stay for details. My name is Israelai, and Joynews Prime is coming to you live from our Fanofa studios at Kokomlemle here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Stay tuned in. In our first story, 2020 NDC presidential candidate John Mahama has put forward a fresh request to have his lawyers inspect documents in the custody of the Electoral Commission. The documents, 6 in all, include constituency presidential election results summary sheets, which Mr. Mahama also wants to be allowed to make copies. We have cited a copy of this request, and that's what you see on your screen right now. And it names the first respondent and the second respondent. And the request to inspect documents says, take notice that the petitioner in this action requires first respondent to, within 3 days of the service of this notice, produce the following documents for inspection by petitioner or his counsel, and to permit petitioner or his counsel to take copies of same. The documents, the inspection requires are as follows: the originals of the constituency presidential election results, collation forms, Form 9 for all constituencies in Ghana, the originals of the constituency presidential election results summary sheets, Form 10 for all constituencies in Ghana, 3, the originals of the regional presidential election results collation forms for all regions in Ghana, 4, the originals of the regional presidential election results summary sheets, Form 12 for all regions in Ghana, the original of the declaration of the presidential results form, Form 13, and 6, the records of the alleged update to the purported declaration of presidential election results on December 9, 2020 of the results of 4 constituencies in the Greater Accra region. Right, so this came on the second day of the hearing, and the 2020 presidential candidate John Mahama's lawyers, they pushed to have the EC chairperson Jim Mensah subjected to 12 questions they considered critical. They relate mainly to how the EC managed the elections from results collation to transmission. This was, however, shot down by the Apex Court following legal resistance from the EC and President Akufo-Addo's lawyers on the second day of the 2020 election petition hearing. Court correspondent Joseph Akable was in court and has filed this report.
hearing comments with a request by lawyers for Mr. Mahama that some 12 questions should be answered by the Electoral Commission chairperson. The court, however, listened to legal arguments and came to the conclusion that it was not relevant. But first, we can take a listen to some of the arguments that were made in support of the request for those questions to be answered and the arguments against.
I refer to the broad scope of discovery because all those orders, further and better particulars, interrogatories, and so on, they are all intended to narrow down the issues for the trial and to make clear what really is in contention between the parties. That is what I wanted to emphasize. So what we have sought in these interrogatories, in our respectful submission, will achieve the objective of narrowing down the issues before this court.
Being sought are in the petitioner's own petition, the answer filed by the first respondent and also the answer filed by the second respondent. Questions being asked of us that where did the regional coalition center pop up from is all in the law. That is why we are saying that everything is in the law before this court. Now, my lords, we would also realize that the questions posed seek to introduce through the back door new facts which are not anywhere in the petition before this court.
A proposed interrogatory which does not relate to a matter mentioned in paragraph A of sub-rule 1 shall be disallowed, notwithstanding that it might be admissible in cross-examination. So it's a well-established rule of the common law that a matter that may be refused in interrogatories may be allowed during cross-examination. So our position is that all the issues that they are raising here, and if you look at the pleadings, are not in contention. They have been sufficiently answered. There may have been admissions which put them out of contention. And the petitioner may have his occasion during cross-examination to throw some of these questions at the EC.
Subsequent statutory amendments pointed out after 2013 have provided us with new procedural regime and strict timelines. We are strictly bound to comply with CR90 and therefore we will not apply Order 22 of CR 47 of 2004 in these circumstances. We accordingly refuse to grant the application and same is accordingly dismissed.
The court dismissed the application and lawyers for Mr. Mahama's team and the president's team have been reacting to the decision.
Indeed, just to let you know that we were ready and prepared with our issues because the last time the court directed that there was going to be a pre-trial, every lawyer knows that when the case is adjourned for pre-trial or case management, you have to prepare your issues. And if you bring an application to court, you either know that the application will be granted or dismissed. So there is no need to wait for that to happen. Much more so when you filed your application just about 2:40 p.m. yesterday. What did you expect? So yes, the application has been dismissed. Whatever they do afterwards is their own business.
Is your contention that
the real case in court has not started?
Is your contention that they are delaying the process? We heard your colleague make that point that he wanted to be dealt with.
Well, what else could be further from the truth?
We didn't need to even, I think that Ms. Jikata eloquently dealt with the issue of relevance. By, for instance, taking the court through, step by step, the relevance of each of the questions that we wanted the Electoral Commission, to answer. And then also, when Learned Counsel for the first respondent was on his feet, he himself pointed out quite clearly that the issues we raised were contained in their answer.
So hearing of the matter continues on Tuesday, and the main business of the day is first and foremost that the memorandum of issues are to be filed by the parties in the case. This is simply a detail of what the parties opt or hold the view to be critical to the determination of this particular dispute, and so they are going to propose the questions that they think the court should be asking them to provide evidence to support, and once the court adopts that, then the trial proceeds from there. Reporting for Joynews from the Supreme Court, my name is Joseph Akable.
The police in Accra on Tuesday arrested nearly 100 people in the Central Business District for flouting the directive on the wearing of face masks. Those arrested included head porters and others who had come to do business. Many did not have masks at all, while others were not wearing them properly. ASP Ifya Tenge is spokesperson for the Accra Region Police.
The Regional Police Command have embarked on a special operation this morning and have been able to arrest 97 persons who were not wearing the face mask. We arrested these persons around the Tudu area, railways, CMB, Farisco, and its environs. What we observed was that when these people come into town, it is either they have the face mask, yet they will not put it on. So usually you see them putting the face mask in their bags or in their pockets. So they were all rounded up this morning, and some were made to buy the face mask or take the face masks that were in their pockets or in their bags and wear them. So they have all been brought to the Regional Police Command as we take a decision on them.
Joynews checks out suggests an improvement in compliance with the protocols. Manuel Coranting has more on his observations in the Central Business District.
Well, it's almost 48 hours after the president gave an indication that he had ordered the Inspector General of Police, James Opong-Buenu, to deploy men, uniformed men and women into the streets across the country to enforce the compliance of COVID-19 protocols, key amongst which are the wearing of face masks, the use of hand sanitizers, and some of the other hygiene regimen. Well, here at the Central Business District in Accra, which is perhaps one of the busiest enclaves in the capital, there's no presence of the police, at least if you take out that gentleman who's directing traffic at the junction there. Well, he's directing traffic and not enforcing COVID-19 protocols.
And so by saying so, any be and yet I also would because I was I discarded
I hear this woman making a very important point. She talks about the prevalence of the virus, especially during the electioneering period when there was a lot of campaigning ongoing. But now she thinks that it's a decoy by government to just get them to do things that they don't want to do. Madam, not say, oh, say, I got to abandon the say corona.
Yes, any way uncle vote. Ya vote we are Musi Yarenu, Ewoho. Yareni will add a mumma echo vote to ye. I don't know my echo vote, say, and Musi Nosman, yes, and Shebium. I'm a born pass and Danny Cramai. I will say, those my Michelle cannot mean to me, whom it's me, yes, and me bag him. I mean, me said I ran more than a mission. I have voted 2 times, but I mean, said, and I ran a moody that day. I ran a shadow anyway. I said, I will hold me park on my uncle for 2 months. I ran on anyone, it's not my uncle for 2 months. Munya, Yanu, Musi Yarana Manuso. And say, I think I must call soon call school. I'm on 12. Now, me to John more time, and I make Franca, my bass and my better time, and I make Pong. I go for me, Banu school. It ran me Banu walk rassy. Says I must munko school back cry. And I'm in a school about it. The time when I met Paco for Kurani Free School.
Day, my max day here.
Day where?
My day, my pocket.
Your pocket, but why know the way?
Oh, because do work, that is why.
Okay, you are working, that's why you're not wearing it. So if somebody's coming to sit in a car, do you check?
Yeah, I'm check.
I'm from Kunkumaya Market.
Kunkumaya Market, Agbublush, all the way from Agbublush.
Yeah.
Did any policeman stop you on the road?
No, I've not seen any on the way.
You've not seen any policeman on the road?
Yeah.
Is that a worry to you?
Not really.
Well, my observation reveals that there's some level of increment in terms of compliance to the protocol, but most of them coming out of the ingenuity of the market women themselves.
they are protecting themselves against the virus, not under the instruction of any policeman, but for their own safety.
Yeah, no question say Aliena Bano. And Yamanko and about the whole world. And the unknown just or more be police in Nibaka say no mask. It's media, what's a ball who buy one shot. One casa because a new casa obisia as a police in the say a rather than say no mask. Now and son waka could to be so protect home because you are in a bar and your police in Ibi and Kunu Bekun.
We're crossing over to Parliament now, where the House has approved the list of 26 members to serve on the Appointments Committee to vet President Akufo-Addo's ministerial nominees. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, parliamentary correspondent, joins us live. Hello, Joseph. You tell us more. Hello, Joseph. You tell us more on what's happening in the House right now.
The House just adjourned sitting just a few minutes ago, about 10 minutes ago, after there was the approval of the committee's report, the Committee of Selections report, recommending various members for the Appointment Committee and also the Business Committee. At the very dying minutes, the Speaker asked whether the House would want to approve the report. There were the yes and there was the no's. And the Speaker said he wasn't very clear in his mind. He asked that on both sides, they should stand up and be counted in terms of where your vote lies. But eventually, after a lot of back and forth, he went on to put the question again, and the ayes were louder than the no's, allowing for the approval of the report. And just to put it all in context, the NPP had kicked against the said recommendation for the approval of the committee's report, particularly having to do with the Appointment Committee, because the Appointment Committee has 26 members, 13 on the MPP side, 13 on the NDC side. And for the NDC, they are satisfied with it, but the MPP said that they think to a certain extent the figures don't add up because the first Deputy Speaker, being the chair of the committee, is not someone who should be counted among the other members of the committee if there should be an equal split. And so Alexander Napenyomakins, who is the MP for Futu, had argued that to a certain extent the committee as it had been set up now doesn't favor the NPP and that it's against the requirement in the standing orders. Well, eventually we saw the approval being given for it after the House debated it lengthily, with the NDC insisting that the formula as it exists now is the accurate formula that it's supposed to be. Easy.
All right, so Joseph, if there are 13 members each, or you have 26, where I thought there's supposed to be an odd number, so that when there's a vote, then you can have one person, maybe the chairperson, casting the vote.
Israel, if you read the standing orders of Parliament, it makes the point that the Appointment Committee shall be chaired by the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament and shall have not more than 25 other members. So a decision on how many they should be is left to the House to take a decision on, in this case, the Select Committee, because instead of 25, they could have nominated 24 members,
yes.
24 MPs, plus the first deputy to then give it an odd number. But clearly the House, and for that matter, the Selection Committee, chaired by Speaker Bagben, which brought its report to the House for approval, came to the conclusion that it shouldn't be an odd number, but be an even number, and in this case, the maximum as is captured in the standing orders. The argument that was being forcefully made by the NDC side, or by the NPP side rather, was that usually the first Deputy Speaker who chairs is not part of the committee, and so it's only a case where there is a break in tie that his vote would count. But those on the other side disagreed. Muntaka Mubarak, the chief whip on the NDC side, said he's been part of the committee for 16 years now, and as far as he's concerned, the chair has always been part of proceedings and voting and decision taking, and looks like the House has given approval for whatever the position of the NDC side was, that 13-13, giving it an even number is the way to go.
So significantly, the NDC had their way as far as this appointment committee is concerned. All right. So, Joseph, I'm asking, significantly means that the NDC had their way as far as this appointment committee vote is concerned. All right, we seem to have lost Joseph Opoku Gakpo. We're taking a break here on Joynews Prime. We will be back with more news to stay tuned in. President Akufo-Addo says government has opened formal discussions with some pharmaceutical companies towards the importation of the COVID-19 vaccine for Ghana's use. The president, who has been addressing the 72nd Annual New Year School at the University of Ghana, says details of the arrangement will be made soon.
COVID-19 infections tells us that the virus is very much with us. So we cannot afford to abandon the enhanced hygiene and safety protocols that ensure that we are faring much better than many other countries, including some well-advanced developed countries. If we do not adhere to these protocols, all the work that is being undertaken to build Ghana in the face of the global health crisis will fail. Through the advances of science, we now have vaccines which are already being administered in some countries that could help control and eventually end the pandemic. The committee formed by government to recommend the appropriate decision on COVID-19 vaccines has completed its work, enabling government to begin discussions with vaccine manufacturing companies with the goal of ordering the suitable doses of the vaccines for use in Ghana. Details of this will be announced very soon. As I said earlier on in my address, the pandemic has illustrated vividly the need for self-reliance in all areas of social and economic life. It is key that we also break the cycle of dependence on foreigners in the fields of science and medicine as well. It is not beyond our scientists and pharmaceutical companies, whose knowledge and expertise cannot be questioned, to produce an indigenous or Ghanaian vaccine to combat the virus. They must be up and doing. Chairperson, government supports the 72nd Annual New Year School and Conference and finds the theme and sub-themes relevant and essential to raise, discuss, deliberate, and find answers to important questions related not only to the COVID-19 pandemic, but also to other health and indeed social crises. We are determined to work with all stakeholders to see us through this crisis and all the challenges it has brought in its wake. We've already put in place various measures to protect the most vulnerable in society from the economic effects of the virus, and will continue to work proactively to protect the citizenry from the ravages of the pandemic.
Presidential Coordinator for Ghana's Coronavirus Response Program, Dr. Nefia Samwaba, has identified a number of shortcomings plaguing the country's COVID-19 fight. Key amongst them is a challenge with risk communication to the public. He also cited instances where infected persons first resort to spiritual healing and then turn to orthodox medicine, often when it's too late.
The second is the laboratory capacity. Not only access to laboratory, but the quality of lab work. Time has come for us to take the whole area of laboratory science more seriously than we've done in the past. The third area is the said capacity to assemble intensive care capacity, said capacity to build treatment centers, isolation centers, or to mobilize these facilities. But perhaps one of the weakest areas is our ability to communicate risk to the general public. We tend to over-medicalize our communication, and we are either too technical, too patronizing, too reassuring, or too alarmist. In the socioeconomic sphere, families that are most hit are families with little financial resilience, families with debts, families without diversified incomes, families that are dependent on others, families that live from hand to mouth, families with no savings, and that refers to 80% of families in Ghana. If you extrapolate this to the national level, countries that have been hit most are countries that do not have resilient economy. And that is why our agenda to build a resilient economy is so important. Building a resilient economy means a diversified economy. It means industrialization. And the key to industrialization is the private sector. Private sector, to produce, to meet local demand and to reduce dependence on imports, must have access to affordable long-term loans. In the education sector, COVID has brought home the importance of out-of-school learning, online learning. Broad-based access is basic. So, the digital divide.
We're taking a break here on Joynews Prime, but still ahead in the bulletin in business. If you are a business here in Ghana, a financial think tank is advising that you enter an agreement with your bank to buy dollars at a fixed rate as it is projected. Ghana's cedi will have some issues against the dollar by the end of 2021. So you're better off buying now. Do stay tuned. We'll have those details up in a bit. Hello, good evening. It's time for business. I'm Charles Aitib. Ghana's currency is expected to end the year 2021 at 6 cedis 45 pesos. That's a projection by the Economic and Finance think tank, Center for Economics, Finance and Inequality Studies, in its cedi outlook report for this year. The cedi performed very well last year despite the pandemic, and market watchers were predicting a good run for the year, subject to prudent economic management. But according to the lead author of this particular report, Dr. Benjamin Amwam, local businesses may have to secure more dollars ahead of time in order to reduce the negative impact of the projected forex rates by the end of this year.
It's about sustainability. It costs the central bank so much to be able to supply the forex. So will the central bank's behavior be sustained in this regard? That is what we need to observe and then hope that the central bank will stay to its behavior. If not, then the cedi is likely to be as near as what we have predicted. So, and let's hope that the central bank will be committed.
In the meantime, how do we avoid this 6 cedis 45 pesos?
It is simple. For businessmen, what they need to do is to plan ahead. The forecast is just a planning tool. So we expect businessmen and women to plan ahead and then, if possible, negotiate dollars with their banks ahead of time based on their obligations that they are going to meet going forward.
Now, the Africa Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, is making available a $2 billion financial guarantee for all African countries to facilitate the purchase of vaccines for the coronavirus. This fund will be made accessible to all 55 member nations of the African Union. There is more in this report.
This follows the announcement by the chairperson of the African Union, President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, that the Union has secured a provisional 270 million COVID-19 vaccine doses for Africa, and therefore a pre-order program has been opened on the Africa Medical Suppliers platform. The platform is to allow all member states to make online applications for the amount of doses required in their respective countries. Afreximbank will facilitate payment by providing advanced procurement commitment guarantees of up to $2 billion to the manufacturers on behalf of all the member states, while the task force team has secured a provisional 270 million COVID-19 vaccine doses from Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca. The medical platform has opened pre-orders offering an equitable access of COVID-19 COVID-19 vaccines for Africa. Afrexim Bank is proud to expand its support to African economies in their bid to contain the pandemic. Our vaccine financing facility builds on the success of our pandemic trade impact mitigation facility to open access to COVID-19 vaccines to African states, said Professor Benedict Orama, President and Chairperson of the Board of Directors of Afrexim Bank. The Africa Medical Suppliers Platform has also launched a new category of vaccine accessories which will help member states to procure products such as ultra-low temperature freezers, personal protection equipment, among others. According to the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the biggest challenge to COVID-19 vaccine access in Africa have been financing of the vaccines and the logistics of vaccinating at scale. However, from today onwards, the African Union member states will be able to start placing online pre-orders to their vaccine allocations through the medical supplies platform.
Now, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority says it will commit itself to build consensus between local exporters and shipping lines to ensure favorable freight rates, including container rent charges in the country. Importers and exporters are raising and, of course, pleading with government to maintain charges at the ports despite the increase in international freight charges. The charges are becoming a nightmare for these importers who say the cost of renting or shipping a container from Asia and Europe has skyrocketed from $3,000 to $13,000. According to GEPA, advocacy has become necessary so as to ensure that the sustainability of local businesses is much more a top agenda. Deputy Chief Executive of GEPA, Samuel Dentu, spoke to us earlier on the marketplace.
When it comes to freighting, you realize that is also another private business. But just before we went on the break, on the issue of freighting and cushioning exporters, we had lots of meetings with various organizations, in the freighting business to ensure that our goods are not, do not cease going offshore because of freight costs. GEPA, as its work, cannot directly cushion traders in terms of maybe paying part of their freight costs or something like that. But we can speak with these private businesses to ensure that, because of COVID, we are able to ensure that their rates come down. A typical example of a meeting that we had was a meeting that we, in terms of freighting of foodstuffs, was having a meeting with one of the airlines to, together with the exporters themselves, to see how we are going to reduce the cost of freight. Yes, it is an issue because for the freight providers themselves, or the logistics providers themselves, there is a cut in business for them, and so they also look at ways that they can cover up. But what we do is to be a middle organization that brings the two private organizations together and talk to see how we can make it easier for our exporters to sustain their business. Right. So we do so many interventions in terms of advocacy to ensure that businesses still continue and, more importantly, keep their orders, because that's important.
Well, that'll be all for business. We're back after 8. I'm Charles Aite.
Many thanks for staying with us here on Joynews Prime. It's now time to bring you sport. I am Hans Mensah Ando. English Premier League outfit Southampton. They've announced a partnership agreement with Ghanaian giants Asante Kotoko. According to the Saints, the spirit of the pact allows them to support the development of Kotoko's strategy both on and off the pitch. There is more in the following report.
Southampton will share their industry-leading coaching expertise to help Kotoko realize their ambition of building a sustainable academy and pathway to the first team, with year-round remote support supplemented by regular visits to Ghana throughout the partnership from the club's international football partnership team. The partnership will include academy staff exchange visits between the UK and Ghana, as well as opportunities for Kotoko's young players to attend annual UK player development camps and experience the Southampton Academy methodology firsthand when travel corridors open up and it is safe to travel. Southampton will also support the development of Kotoko's commercial and operational strategy through collaborating on key projects. Based in Kumasi, Kotoko have been champions of the Ghana Premier League a record 23 times, have won the CAF Champions League twice, and were named the African Club of the Century by the International Football Federation of History and Statistics.
Now, veteran Ghanaian coach J. Sapon says it will be difficult for Ghanaian clubs to keep their best players in the domestic top flight. Wafa's top striker Daniel Lomote is set to complete a move to Tunisian side AS Soliman. Lomote currently leads the top scorers chart in the Ghana Premier League. He has scored 8 goals in 9 matches. Coach Sapon is not blaming local clubs for selling their best players in the middle of the season.
We may not get the quality we want if we try to push our players outside, players who are performing well in our league, to go outside and play for outside teams. But of course, you and I know that the financial standing of our clubs are not all that strong, so they derive their money from the sale of these players.
Is there any way at all we can get our players to stay just a while longer?
Well, there is a way out, but I think that the money, the wages paid to the players are not enough to keep the players here. You understand? They will by all means go away. It used to be, and it will continue to be. There's no way a player who is developing will stay in this country. But he wants to join the Black Stars. And the only way to go is to go outside, and play, and then for the handlers to get you back to the Black Stars. That's another factor. You see, that's why I'm saying that if we're able to organize our league very well, very strongly, you see, and then pay the players the remunerations that we need, they will stay here because home sweet home. But it's not going to be. As I speak with you now, somebody might be moving away without, at the hindsight, we don't know. Or it's low motives that has come out. But somebody might have left the country. You know, so there's nothing we can do about it. We have to maintain this thing. Look at what happened in the CHAN. We don't have any. We didn't qualify for CHAN. All because of these things. Our good players are leaving the shores of Ghana. So how do you get a good team to represent us? So it's a very big problem.
That's it for sports.
Time for Showbiz with Becky Bex. Hello, Bex.
Hello to you, Easy. How you doing?
Well, how about you?
I'm fine, thank you. Qual, is insisting that the $150 that are being paid or received after
it's been charged the COVID
testing
fee
at the airport should be abolished.
The Ghana way we dey top. They say COVID will be the best way we take care of everything. Right now, government come out, president come out, say people who they come into the country, it be them they bring COVID. I want to ask you, if it be so, the test that they do for the Ghana airport today, it will be correct, and I say it be what? Because we pay $150. Everybody that come the country is supposed to do a test. So how come the people that they come the country they bring corona? The test is be scam and I say it be real. What I say, if make we know. If the test no good, you for stop they do the test for the airport, which means you for stop the 150. But if people they pay 150, we still the people they bring corona, then for me say the test no good. Charlie, we just come in the airport, we need that.
Well, Quarks is right there. I know that you posted something on social media, Facebook.
Yeah.
I know we don't have time.
Yeah,
but
I've made my views known about it. So,
about this, I think they should,
we'll just leave it at that. Right, thank you very much, Bex, for bringing us Showbiz. And that'll be it for those of you who are watching on Joy Prime. But there's more news on the Joynews channel. Do stay tuned in. And Accra High Court, General Jurisdiction 5 this morning, threw out an application by lawyers for the embattled FDA lawyer against Manasseh Azure Awuni. Lawyers for Cynthia Dapanto wanted the court to dismiss all processes so far filed on behalf of Mr. Awuni, claiming he used care of in providing his residential address, and that meant he did not comply with the law requiring a defendant in a suit to provide his residential address. Lawyers for the first defendant, led by Samson Ladia Yenini, argued against the motion, stressing this was about the third frivolous attempt by the plaintiff to abuse the court process and delay the case. The lawyers wanted the court to dismiss all processes so far filed on behalf of Mr. Awuni, but that application was thrown out Tuesday morning. Let's now speak with the producer of the documentary, Manasseh Azure Awuni, who joins us on the telephone. So, Manasseh, how do you feel about how this is playing out in court and, in effect, causing a delay in the airing of the documentary?
Well, Israel, I must say this is not something that I'm happy about. I do recognize that if anybody has something against the work of the journalist, they have the right to be heard in court. But it is becoming a very disturbing rhythm in this country, and it started some years back. We remember what happened to Kwitenati's missing kilos. That had to be held on for a long time, and I expected this injunction to at least have been heard by now so that we can go ahead to air it. And mind you, there is a defamation case, so if somebody has issue or the person has issues about the content, they can still go to court and seek redress. But when we have these delays, then it is going to empower or encourage people who would want to stifle journalistic work by going to court just to perhaps delay the process. I must say that sometimes before your story comes out, you meet people or some people are involved who tell you that, look, can you delay this story for a month or two or a week so that we do ABC? So there is a high incentive for people, if they can't even stop the story from airing, to have it delayed. And so this suit was filed, I think, on the 12th of November. And looking at the next court date, it will be about 3 months, and we still may not have heard the substantive case of the injunction.
Now, is it likely, or are there any options available to you and your lawyers to ensure that this is heard rather quickly than later?
Well, that is fair for the lawyers to decide, but I think my lawyer and the lawyers of multimedia have made it a point to respect the court. So anytime even the application for injunction is filed and it's not heard, we always make the attempt to at least hold on to the airing of the journalistic piece until everything is cleared. So that is what the decision is. But as to how the processes can travel fast, I think, as my lawyer said in court, there are, I think, many attempts to get the substantive case, the hearing of the substantive case delayed, which for me is a bit strange, and it's also disturbing, not for me alone, but I think for journalists in general. If somebody gets hint that they're going to publish a story and they can put an injunction on it, or even seek to put an injunction on it, and the hearing can delay for so long, whether or not the injunction application is granted, they may end up achieving their aim and frustrating the work, because in journalism, time is of the essence.
All right. Thank you very much, Manasseh Azure Awuni. And Manasseh Azure Awuni is an investigative journalist, and he's worked on this documentary that hasn't yet been aired because the person who the documentary is about, one of the people in the documentary, wants to believe they have been defamed, and so has gone to court over that. In other news, the Data Protection Commission in Ghana has written to U.S. social communication firms, WhatsApp and Facebook, demanding clarity on the new privacy policy, which gives the companies legal authority to share personal information of its users. Many subscribers to the two platforms have expressed worry about the new policies and the implications for their privacy. Joynews' Isaac Kofieje has more in this report.
One way or the other is going to breach our personal information.
WhatsApp users have been told to accept changes to its privacy policy to allow it to share their personal data with its sister company, Facebook, and other partner companies. The move has provoked anger and prompted many to migrate to other social communication apps such as Telegram, Signal, and Ayoba. Within 72 hours of WhatsApp announcement, Telegram reported a significant jump in its subscriber base by 25 million users. The matter has caught the attention of the Ghana Data Protection Commission since almost all Ghanaians with access to a smartphone uses WhatsApp, Facebook, or both. Its Executive Director, Patricia Edusei-Poku, speaking at the launch of its Data Protection Day, set to come off later this month, said the Commission is interested in knowing what the real intent of the WhatsApp and Facebook information sharing policy is.
The privacy notice that they put out is nothing new. It's something they have been doing for the last 10 years. Facebook, like us, are trying to improve transparency. They are trying to tell us about the things that they do usually with our personal data. So when I called Facebook and I spoke to them, they said the same thing to us, that they are not adding to the privacy notice. They are just being transparent and explaining to the general public about what they can do with the information that we put on. I'm trying to get them to do a webinar with us, but of course this is a global issue and they are very inundated. I think every country is contacting them.
WhatsApp is owned by US tech expert Mark Zuckerberg, who also owns Facebook. Kofi Eje's report for Joynews.
Day 2 of the new school term saw significant improvement in adherence to safety protocols in the Upper West Region capital compared to the reopening day, where all COVID safety protocols were disregarded. Joynews correspondent Rafiq Salam reports most of the students wore face masks. There were, however, no thermometer guns or running water with soap for the pupils to wash their hands.
It's day 2 of the reopening of schools in the country. Pupils of one municipal model primary school, known in former times as War Experimental Primary School, are back behind and cluttered to their desks, listening keenly to their teachers. As compared to day 1, when none of the over 40 pupils in this class were unmasked, today it is totally different. All of them are on nose masks. The only challenge is the size of the classroom as compared to the number of dual desks and pupils. They are seated and closely knitted together in their dual desks. No scintilla of regard for the social distancing rules. Throughout my rounds at the 104-year-old primary school, I neither spotted any Veronica bucket nor any place there's running water and soap for pupils to wash their hands. I tried to inquire from the headmistress and she flatly refused, demanding I should have sought permission from her superiors before coming over to the school. As the headmistress of the oldest primary school in the Wa municipality walked past the team, she bumped into a colleague from the kindergarten with about 2 dozen pupils from the school's kindergarten 2 due for promotion to primary 1. Majority of them were not wearing nose masks. She insisted that they wear nose masks before they are enrolled into primary 1. Surprisingly, most of them had, except that they were kept in their pockets, which they quickly removed to wear. Across town and at the Tindamba Primary A and B, the situation was not different. The pupils were on recreation and were playing among themselves without any recourse to adhering to any of the safety health protocols. Their teachers sat on their veranda close to the head teacher's office, engaged in a friendly chat. Behind them are multi-purpose paper towels and hand sanitizers. The headmasters refused to speak to us on the situation.
There is, however, good news at the end of the tunnel. I'm sandwiched by 2 vehicles belonging to Tobacco Entrance. Both of them are carrying several tons of hand sanitizers to be given to the Upper West Directorate of the Ghana Education Service to be sent to the various schools in the Upper West region.
Since Monday evening, the forecourt of the Upper West Region Directorate of the Ghana Education Service has been busy. Municipal and district directors of education and some school heads have converged here to take custody of their consignment from the government. Abdul Razak Abdul Kora is the Upper West Region's Director of the Ghana Education Service.
We are taking PPEs even to the districts.
Okay.
Thank you.
How many vehicles are we expecting?
Oh, that is the last vehicle that has come.
How many vehicles came so far?
4 vehicles. That is the last one.
So when are you going to distribute them?
They are going straight to the field.
Okay. And so yesterday we visited the schools, and then not many were wearing nose masks. Were you worried about the situation?
We have sent out nose masks as of the day for yesterday.
Reporting for Joynews, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Authorities in basic schools have been empowered to take decisions and make reforms to enhance adherence to COVID-19 safety protocols. This includes running shift systems to ensure social distancing is observed in schools facing challenges with space. Naya Jima joined the tour of schools in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, and as far as this report.
The high number of children in classrooms of some public schools make it impossible to observe social distancing protocol. This is Class 6 of Frantinebra Basic School. There are more than 60 pupils in this classroom. Though some distancing is observed, it fails to meet standard. Ashanti Regional Education Director Mary Osu Echang says such schools are permitted to make special arrangements to improve the situation, including running a shift system.
If you need to run a sort of shift to get the social distancing, it's allowed. That is, it should be school specific. It is not district specific, school specific. So depending upon the enrollment of the school, teachers have been given the right to use their discretion to do what is best for.
At the Opokuari Basic School, the school management committee has built tents to help break down classrooms. Though congestion in classrooms has reduced, the expected outcome is yet to be realized. Head teacher Cynthia Osepoku says more desks are needed to ensure full compliance.
We've been given about 6 teachers to occupy the extra classes we have created. We don't have enough furniture yet, even though we've been promised by our directors, but we are working on it. Yes. Recently we were supplied, and the KMA has also promised to give additional 300. That is what we are waiting.
Most schools are yet to take delivery of government's nose masks and other materials, but the schools are strictly complying with hand washing and wearing of nose mask protocols. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah is impressed about the adherence to COVID-19 protocols.
The observance rate, I should say, is above 90%, as you all witness. Most of the children were wearing their face masks. There are few instances that we have some few people who were not wearing, and some were also not wearing properly. They were putting it below or around their chin, which is not the right thing to do. They should cover both the mouth and then the nose. But in general, I should say that I'm impressed with the level of compliance, and we are praying that it can continue like that.
Meanwhile, children of school-going age have been admitted into schools. Ashanti Region Early Childhood Education Coordinator Evelyn Kwatin assures measures will be adopted to ensure safety of children in the face of COVID-19 pandemic.
Children at the age of 4 and 5, parents should not keep them at home, because most of the parents are afraid that because of COVID, these children will not observe all the COVID protocol. But we are assuring them that there is a policy backing these children.
From Kumasi for Joynews, Nana Ojima reporting.
Many schools at Damongo in the West Gonja municipality of the Savannah region at the time Joynews visited Tuesday had their students without face masks. Our cameras also spotted teachers in these schools without masks. Meanwhile, checks at the Savannah Regional Education Service offices revealed that region's PPE supply is yet to arrive. Savannah Regional Director of Education Service, Mumuni Imbowura Francis, confirmed the region is still depending on the few left from last year.
Why is your outfit now giving things or PPEs to schools and not yesterday?
The supply is delayed. The supply is delayed. Meanwhile, all we had in stock has already been distributed. Yeah, so we're waiting for fresh PPEs to come for them to distribute it. And on the day before yesterday and yesterday, we had some. That's why we have seen some in the schools today, because the teachers it came late and the teachers couldn't come. So that's why they have come for it today.
But they were not wearing no masks. Both people and teachers.
Yes. Those you saw with nose masks were the ones that we kept in those days. But we are still expecting more to come.
I'm saying that having gone around, I've not seen them with no masks.
With nose masks?
Yes.
That's why I'm telling you that we have run out of stock and we are expecting more to come. And when they come, we'll distribute them immediately. Yes. What we had in stock was what you saw them wearing.
But a source at the West Gonja Municipal Office says the situation is alarming as parents and teachers are not comfortable with their current arrangement in schools. West Gonja MC Said Muhazu Jibril will not deny, however, adds some interventions have been made at the primary school level.
Day at school for yesterday. Well, your office out today sharing, visiting schools and distributing PPEs.
Yeah, thank you very much. Officially, we had a communication from the Ghana Education Service that today, Tuesday, is the official date for my first day visitations to the schools. Because Monday, which signaled the first day of reopening, was actually meant for cleaning of the compounds, for the students to be able to at least have a clean environment to be able to learn. And therefore, we have to make sure that all schools within the Savannah region and the municipality is fully cleaned. And so this is the reason why you have seen us going around today, to make sure that we see that all the COVID-19 protocols as spelled out by the President of the Republic are adhered to in all these schools within the West Gonja municipality and the Savannah regional Savannah region in general. So that's why you have seen me out with the regional director of education, the municipal director of education, and we are visiting some schools within the West Gonja municipality.
Delta Paper Mill Limited, manufacturers of Flora facial tissue, have launched a back-to-school health awareness campaign. The campaign seeks to educate children on the best health practices, even as schools reopen amidst an increase in COVID-19 cases. Marketing manager Barbara Inkum says their target is to reach out to 50 schools in 4 regions. Faustina Safo reports.
A recent surge in COVID-19 cases has got many parents worried about the safety of their children as schools reopen across the country. Already reports of pupils flouting basic safety protocols have dominated local media reports 2 days into the new school term, pushing the National Inspectorate Board to serve notice it will begin shutting down schools that fail to ensure their pupils adhere to the safety protocols. Stakeholders agree sensitization efforts must be intensified, especially at the basic level, to ensure compliance, but the government cannot do it alone. Delta Paper Mill Limited is therefore hoping its back-to-school health awareness campaign could complement the state's efforts. Pupils at the Kanesha Bishop 1 and 2 were among the first batch of pupils who received training. Their target is to reach out to 50 schools in 4 regions. Barbara Inkum is marketing manager for Delta Paper Mill Limited.
Delta Paper Mill, we produce tissue products. And we know that tissue is one of the things you need to keep safe in this COVID period. We produce disposable handkerchiefs. They are in small packs that you can put in your purse or your bag. And we thought that at this time it's important we give some to school children so that they can use it in school and be safe. We are doing this just to help government because we know that government is trying to keep our children safe in school. Government alone cannot do it all, and since we produce tissue, we just decided to do our bit to support government in this initiative.
The group also donated facial tissues and disposable hand towels to teachers and pupils. Headmaster of Kanesha Bishop 1 and 2, while applauding the effort, urged corporate Ghana to emulate the gesture.
We are saying that we are grateful unto you, because the donation has come at a time that we need it. And we are going to make good use of it. We are going to make sure that the beneficiaries, the students and the teachers, benefit from it. We are saying that this donation has come to augment whatever the government is providing. So we are so thankful unto you.
Some of the pupils pledged to observe the safety protocols, though they admit adherence has been difficult.
At first, we sit at 2, but now we have bring social distance. Sometimes we sit at 1. But if you come to school, we come around 6:30. But if you come, we wash our hands, we sweep and do all things, and use sanitizer. We enter the classroom, but we have vertical bucket too. Then we get inside. So we thank God that they are bringing us this, but or whatever they have said, we will do it for them so that we will all abstain from COVID-19.
And fellow Ghanaians, let's stay away from coronavirus, and we should take the rules from the government so that we can protect ourselves.
Faustina Safo for Joynews.
Now, the Doringando Book Farm, in collaboration with Upuku Gakpo Foundation, have donated books and other supplies to schools in the Ejumako Ba community in the Ejumako-Enyanesiem district of the Central Region. Here's a news desk report.
Representatives from the Doringando Book Farm and the Upuku Gakpo Foundation visited the Ejumako Ba community to hand over the reading books, writing books, school bags, mathematical sets, pens and pencils, as well as other school supplies to the children in the schools. Coloring books and teaching aids were also donated. Clothing, biscuits, drinks and confectionery were distributed to the children in the community as part of the festive season. Dorinando says she's excited that the children are happy.
Well, since 2013, I set up the Dorinando Book Farm. Now, what I do is I collect used books. So I get my friends to give me books, reading books for children between ages 5 and 15. I collected quite a number of books. My niece here, who lives in the UK, also helped. She brought boxes of books to help us. I like the fact that the children were smiling and they were happy that they have new books. School starts in another couple of days, so for me, it's a blessing for them. And for me too, my heart is filled with joy that other younger kids will get to read and learn and broaden their knowledge.
Dorinando is hopeful the donation will help improve the education of the pupils in the community.
Well, I hope that the children will be more interested in reading. Now, what reading does is it broadens your knowledge. It takes you to places in your mind that you rather won't be able to go to. So for me, it will be of great help to them if they would read, try to understand, and also learn new words, and overall improve their English language, and also improve themselves as human beings, because I guess that's what reading does for all of us.
Ruben Kwenu, who is coordinator of the Upuku Gakpo Foundation, said the support forms part of the foundation's overall goal to help raise the quality of education in rural Ghana and improve upon the lives of rural children.
This afternoon we came to Ejumako Ba to put smile and hope in this case. This is a community very deprived.
Cecilia Suman, who is a community leader, expressed gratitude to the team for the donation.
Mejina Ejumako Ba mpenimfo ene nkwala school phone na anem edamase baby a munya nyoma books ni akeka nyoma na dos mintumpo nkeka amode bebu mofra modache adisua no yesaka ya genodom.
The children in the community were equally happy about the kind gesture.
All right, so for those of you not so sure when the Harmattan will strike, we have news for you. The weather phenomenon, which among others becomes a major excuse for people to avoid having their bodies come into contact with water, is expected to intensify from Wednesday. That's according to the Ghana Meteorological Agency, and this is a statement they sent in to us. It says the Harmattan is expected to intensify over the country from tomorrow, January 20, and continue into the weekend. Dust has been raised from the source region around Chad and is expected to be advected into the country to deteriorate surface visibility. Due to the influx and of the dry and dusty continental winds, the northern half is expected to be dry with relative humidity of less than 20% and below 50% of a part of the southern sector. The intrusion of dryness increases the probability of fire outbreaks. The general public is advised as follows. Be cautious of handling naked fires. Be careful on the roads due to poor visibility. It's signed by Michael Paddy, head of CAFO for the Director General. I'd like to add my own, because we're in a period, we're in a pandemic, and you're having to use hand sanitizers. You have to wash your hands more often. And just for your information, I'm just warning you that the water that you'll be using to wash your hands is going to be a little colder. Prepare for it. The hand sanitizer is also going to feel a lot colder when it touches your hands. So, yeah, a few of those things, just bear that in mind. But it's important that we continue to do these things, wash our hands regularly with soap and running water, even though it's going to feel a lot colder. But it's fine. It's for our own interest, and it's supposed to protect us. So please, bear with the weather. We're taking a break. We have more business coming up. To stay tuned in.
Hello there, it's now time for business. The Ghana Tourism Federation is urging the government to take a second look at the closure of some leisure centers, including pubs and beaches. President Akufo-Addo over the weekend announced the closures of pubs, nightclubs and beaches to help curb the rise in COVID-19 cases across the country. According to its Executive Secretary, Emmanuel Frimpong, the leisure centers can operate with strict adherence to COVID-19 protocols so that they can stay profitable. He spoke earlier on Business Live.
We are looking at opportunity to sit down with the government and look at how best we can come in between so that we don't close their businesses outright. If we close it, then tomorrow if we open up, they won't have businesses. So we need to sit down and look at what are the modalities, what are the options left for us, because we believe that there are options. If we really want to look at how best these businesses should operate, we think there are options for us to do that. But we are not talking, we are not sitting down to look at the options available to us.
What options would you recommend?
Well, we all have to pay attention to the protocols, washing of hands, wearing of nose masks, social distancing, on all the other protocols that we need to adhere to. And we believe that if we are going to sit down, as the schools have gone back, they sat down with the government, looked at the measures, what is it that the schools can do to get the students back to schools. And now when you go to schools, yes, 3-year children, 4, 5, they are all wearing nose masks. How is it not possible for adults to wear nose masks, wash their hands at the cinemas, at the pubs? Is it not possible? It is possible.
I've heard argument that it would be rather difficult for people to comply. For instance, if you go to the pub and people are drinking, it would be difficult to tell them to wear their masks, observe other COVID protocols. What do you think?
It is an assumption. There's no science to it. It's just somebody sitting down to say that it will be difficult. How difficult, I don't know. Because if we have people who are observing, and we have people who are supposed to make sure others are observing, and we have all these protocols in place, and people are aware that, look, if you don't adhere to the protocols, your businesses will be closed.
Japan Motors has presented its first locally assembled Nissan pickup to automobile engineering students at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Now, the automobile manufacturer said the presentation is to boost the training of the engineering students. There's more in this report.
The university has a long-standing partnership with Japan Motors for student internship positions. Provost of the College of Engineering, Professor Mark Adumasamwa, says the donation is crucial for the practical development of the students.
The College of Engineering, in anticipation of a vibrant automobile industry in Ghana, introduced the BSc Automobile Engineering program 3 years ago. So our first batch will be starting the 3rd year this January. We realized that we needed hands-on training for the students. And for us to be able to have the hands-on training, which usually starts in earnest in the 3rd year, we needed to have a vehicle that the students will be able to take apart in terms of the engine, reassemble, learn how it was fixed, learn how it works, look at the various parts and how they function and how they fit into each other. So that is why we believe that this vehicle would be very helpful in the training of our students.
Executive Director of Japan Motors, Luhad Kamoni, believes the vehicle will expose the students to the latest technologies available at Japan Motors.
They have always been, let's say, some of our best technical students over the years. And now that Japan Motors is going into hopefully start an automotive assembly program towards the end of the year, we wanted to make sure that the students that are studying here are having access to the latest vehicles and to be up to date with the most current technologies. And this is why the vehicle on itself is one thing, but also the training and the attachment with Japan Motors and the exposure to the other brands and the other vehicles that we have is to bring them up to standard, so that when they come and they join any automotive firm, they are ready to be productive and not to go through a big cycle of training. Obviously, this new automotive engineering program here is still new, so we have to make sure that we can cooperate with them, and as they say, they are still in learning phases, and if we can support to fine-tune this program with the university and the deans in charge, we will be more than happy to do so.
Vice Chancellor of Kent University, Professor Rita Akusa Dixon, reiterated the university's commitment to research for the country's development. She therefore appealed to Japan Motors to, among other things, establish a Center of Excellence, state-of-the-art laboratory, and scholarship scheme for females in the automobile engineering program. Reporting for Joynews, Kwesi Deborah.
Well, crystal mining consult under the Kipi Goldfields of the Asiakwa in the eastern region is leading the way in preserving the environment through responsible mining. Over 56 acres of mine concession are being prepared to be handed over to owners of the land. Half of this reclaimed land is revegetated in preparation for farming and other purposes. Love FM's Nana Yaojima visited the Ghanaian-owned land-scale mining firm and has come through with this report.
Under the concurrent mining system, mined areas are reclaimed before the miner starts work on another part of the concession. Segments of the soil dug out are separated from each other and properly kept for reclamation. Chief Geologist Samson Osu explains the soil is replaced by the same layers dug out before black soil is reintroduced to support vegetative cover.
After mining everything from the field, then we send the gauze from the waste plant that the plant reject back to the pit. And then after filling it with the gauze and then the tailings have the oversize and the undersize. We put the oversize before being the undersize. So that we cap it with the overbed. And then we do the contouring and then put back the topsoil.
Trees common to the environment are already planted in restoration of vegetation cover. Mahogany and Oframo are few of such tree species. The trees are mixed cropped with cassava, which is fast growing on the reclaimed land. Some of the cassava has the root crop formed, indicating the soil's fertility despite being mined. Loretta Boateng is Environment Officer.
So we wanted to see the variation and the growth rate we hit it will come, so that after the next period we can able to know how to grow the next phase of the land as well. And it also helped me not to buy, because if I plant and I get enough food crops and I test at the lab and there's no significant metal that affects the production of the body, then it means I can do intercropping. And intercropping, crops actually grows faster than the natural trees we have.
Though these lands have proven fertile, the company is required by law to hold on to the land for at least 5 years before release to the farmers. Chief Executive Officer of Crystal Mining Consult, Nana Bribi Babuatin, says the use of concurrent means of mining contributed to responsible mining realized on the concession.
We have reclaimed about 99% of mine-out areas. But for us, because we want to complete the job, if it is 1 year contract, we want to complete every job or whatever we have to do within that period. That is why we take up upon ourselves to do concurrent mining so that we will not finish all the mining before we come back to make a reclamation.
For Joynews, Nana Ojima reporting.
Well, that'll be all for Business. Sports is up next.
Many thanks for staying with us here on Joynews Prime Time to bring you the second installment of sports. I am Hans Mensah, and on Isaac Kumsin, who is a former vice chairman of the Ghana League Clubs Association and a candidate for the upcoming elections, believes the current leadership style is monotonous and has promised to make the association viable. Here is a report by Muftau Nabil Abdullah.
Isaac Compton, candidate for this year's elections, contested the 2016 edition of the Galga Elective Congress, polling just 13 votes. In the process, incumbent Kujefian got 64 votes. However, Mr. Compton insists his vision for the association makes him a leading candidate for the polls. According to him, reviving the Presidential Cup, which he described as monotonous, would be essential in the resuscitation of Galka.
The President Cup. Everybody from its inception has been a bona fide property of the government of the day. So from the word go of its planning, you plan with the government. When it will be launched, when it will be played, everything, government is on board in its planning. So if I tell you that I'm going to now make a Presidential Cup a seasonal competition, instead of probably 2 clubs playing in one day, it has become monotonous. Boring. We have to think outside the box. We have to be innovative and give job for people to do. You understand? So this competition this time is going to play it in the season. It is not going to be one playoff. Then we'll play to they get 4 teams that are on the table. They are 1 to 4. Then we group them to play among themselves until we get a champion where the president will honor that team. And this is purely presidential project, and I will expect that from the word go when you get to the office, we start the planning with the government and with the FA.
Mr. Kumsim also added that he admires the steps taken by the leader of the Ghana Football Association, Kurt Okreku, and he would emulate that by visiting corporate bodies to be a partner of GACA.
My administration is going to go into a lot of partnership and sponsorship agreement. I have learned a lot from administration of Mr. Kurt Okreku. He was elected at the time where there is COVID, okay? And if you bear me waiting, from the word go, he hit the ground running, whether COVID or no COVID. He opened and knocked off any door that can be a partner to GFA or can be a sponsor to GFA. I admire that move, and I'm going to emulate that move.
The Galka Elective Congress will be held on Thursday, January 21.
That's it for sport. There's more sport at myjoyonline.com/sport. Also follow us on Twitter at JoySportsGH, on Facebook at JoySports, and on Instagram, JoySportsGH.
All right, so before we go, a couple of things we're going to be looking at. President Akufo-Addo has made some appointments to his office, and I'll be sharing that with you right away. So for immediate release, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, has made the following appointments to his office for a second term. Not too many changes, just a few new names. But Akosua Efrema Sapari is still the Chief of Staff. Nana Bedia Tu Asante is the Secretary to the President. Nothing changed there. But then there's Mercy Deborah Kakari, who's Secretary to the Cabinet, Brigadier General Emmanuel Otri, National Security Advisor, Saratu Ata, PA to the President, Emmanuel Idumwa Bosman, Deputy Chief of Staff, Fawaz Aliu, Deputy Chief of Staff, Lord Kome is Director of Operations, Eugene Kofi Bentum Ahin, Director of Communications, who actually signed this release. And then Sam Ellis is the Director of Personnel. And then Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah is Director of Research. Koy Sumang, Legal Counsel to the President. Michael Oforiatta is Director for ECOWAS and Regional Integration. And it concludes the appointees are to undertake their duties in acting capacity subject to consultation with the yet-to-be-constituted Council of State. All right, so the second thing I wanted to talk to you about has to do with the Ghana Meteorological Agency saying that the Harmattan is going to intensify from tomorrow. So I posted that on Facebook just to warn people that you're supposed to be mindful, or the Ghana Meteo is warning you about being mindful about, naked fires. And then it also says that there's going to be poor visibility as you hit the roads. But then my warning to you is that you should be mindful about the water that you're going to be using to wash your hands, because it becomes really necessary that we wash our hands with soap and the running water during these times. But yeah, you're going to have the water feeling, the water is going to be a little cold, and the hand sanitizer is going to be feel a little colder on your hands. So there it is. A few comments. So Gizzy Giz is saying, as for the bathing, and I said they shouldn't stop. People shouldn't stop bathing. It shouldn't be an excuse. Nana Jimang says, so Gizzy Giz says, as for the bad thing, we will see. And Nana Jimang says, thanks for your continuous efforts to education and raising public awareness of this pandemic. And Victor says, so how can COVID-19 survive in Ghana's Harmattan, especially in the northern regions? This virus is really strong. And Benny says she's going to bath hot water, which is fine. And then there's a photo. Rude Octavia says it has started already. And it shows a photo of somebody's parched legs from the Harmattan. Really? Okay. So please, just stay safe out there, but please continue to wash your hands and with soap and the running water, and apply your hand sanitizer. Evans is back, and he's hosting PM Extras. Do stay tuned in for that.